What's going on, fellow A pluses? It's your boy Adam Perez. I'm back once again with a brand new video for you guys today. As believe it or not, I'm doing yet another interview reaction. For me, there is something really exciting about hearing the cast and crew talk about some of their upcoming projects. And today we're going to be focusing on Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Jude Law, fresh off of being at D23 Expo, talking up the brand new Star Wars television series set to go ahead and drop December 3rd. He's talking a little bit more about the Skeleton Crew with Rotten Tomatoes. If you guys missed it, I will go ahead and put a link in the description box below for the Star Wars Skeleton Key trailer that wind up dropping. If you ask me, I personally think it was probably one of the better trailers that we wind up getting out of D23 Expo that was released to the public. Definitely gave me Spielberg sort of slash Amblin vibes if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and experienced those fantastic films. So I'm kind of eager to hear what Jude Law has to certainly say about Skeleton Crew. We'll see if he gives any more details. This interview comes in at just under 7 minutes long. I haven't listened to it before, but I kind of like hearing people discuss their work and learning more about the projects. And hopefully you guys do too. If you guys like my interview reactions and my thoughts on some of the things that these people are saying, let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. If there's any other interviews, behind the scenes stuff, or featurettes that you certainly want me to go ahead and cover and talk about. So let me go ahead and bring this up. Again, this is from Rotten Tomatoes. We just did an interview with the Daredevil Born Again cast with Rotten Tomatoes, but I think they literally dropped this today. I'm recording this Wednesday evening, so it's only fresh a few hours. So let's go ahead and jump in, shall we?
We were talking about how, I mean, it's kind of incredible the following that it gets.
It's amazing.
You can't plan for that.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, I've made
Oh, he's talking about Star
quite
Wars
a lot of
following.
movies now over 30 years, and you cannot work out or plan for a film that just keeps coming back and coming back. And I wouldn't necessarily have guessed it would have been that one.
Really?
You're just dealing with the daily issues of what do we need to shoot? Is this working? You never know. And then you never know how it's going to be received. And certainly not 20 years later.
Yeah. I'm talking about The Holiday with Jude
Which
Law.
she's in.
Oh, I was like,
I
thought you
had
were talking
one
about
line,
Star Wars
and we
for a
finally
second.
meet, and it's so great to meet you for the Skeleton Crew, which is what we're actually here to talk
I was
about.
like, what is she talking about?
So
Okay.
first of all, I'm so excited about this film, an Amblin style series.
Yeah,
this is
Amblin,
so sort of how it's been teased.
That's exactly it.
So how would you describe it?
It's got it's set in the universe of Star Wars. It has some familiar species and characters. Certainly, there are mentions of familiar sides, but it's seen through the eyes of four kids, kids who are lost. And what I love about it is it reminded me of how I felt seeing that world as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old when the first three came out, and how that changed my life. So it connects to that awe, that excitement that you feel. And I hope people feel that too.
That's interesting. I hear a lot about the idea of like coming of age movies, but I kind of like how he expressed that in the sense of, these four kids that we're going to be introduced to seemingly are lost, right? I mean, the great clip that they just showed, right? This kid inside of his classroom, clearly this test that he's about to take is going to have a really big, meaningful impact on sort of like the rest of his life, right? Like as a kid, I don't know how old these kids are, but you probably do feel a little bit lost in the sense of like, where am I going to go sort of after this? We even saw a quick shot of, I think, the character named Fern sort of daydreaming, looking out the window sort of thing, maybe contemplating what else is out there for me as she's getting to that, that age of, understanding her surroundings and everything that's currently going on and what she's kind of going to be doing with her life sort of thing. And so to kind of see this really sort of be compared to like a Goonies film in the sense of these four kids getting lost and kind of being on this adventure. When you kind of get thrust out into that galaxy for the very first time, I'm sure it's magical, wondrous, and dangerous all at the same times. That just creates all these level of emotions. And for Jude Law to be able to compare that to the idea of like watching Star Wars for the first time at 10 years old and being introduced to this vast world, right? Like there's something really special about it. And so for me, it just makes me wonder like the emotional roller coaster of what these kids are about to find themselves on in this world that, I'm sure they've probably heard legends of Luke Skywalker before, maybe heard about, you know, um, the empire and the rebels and all the wars and battles that have ensued, right? Like I am kind of curious to see what that's visually like through the eyes of these four children.
So this is John who's created this. John Watts who's created this.
Chris Ford, yeah.
So we obviously know him from like Spider-Man, and he creates those sort of nostalgic feeling and sort of that coming of age feeling.
Yes.
So, but who do you play in this whole universe, and how do you relate to these
So
kids?
I play a character called Jod. Well, that's one of his names.
That's his name.
And
Jod.
he is someone they meet and who is there to sort of try and help them back to their home planet. And you never quite
The
know
suburbs.
whether he's trustworthy, whether he isn't trustworthy, whether he's with one side or another. You never quite know. But ultimately, he's a member of the crew. Some of them want him a part of it. Some of them don't want him a part of it. I can't give too much away.
Of course.
But I don't want to. So yeah, I'm going to say he's full of contradictions.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I understand there's a
Interesting. Full of contradictions. First, I was trying to figure out how to pronounce his last name, but it's Jod. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, from all the articles that I have been reading, it's the idea that he is a Jedi, or at least knows how to use the Force. But some of the things that I've been reading is that he is in fact a Jedi. I think even in the trailer, the kid goes, "You're a Jedi." He doesn't say anything, but the fact that Jude Law here mentions the idea, like you don't know what side he's on, right? Like if he is a Jedi, I have some questions in the sense of like, how did you survive Order 66? How old were you when that happened? Were you even around during that time, right? Did you discover your powers during the Empire? The Empire era, and did you have a master teach you, or did you learn those abilities and use them for other things, right? Have you helped the Empire out? Like this, I kind of dig the mystery, and I would assume if anything, when it comes to John, he's probably going to have um small reveals here and there about his past. But I like how Jude Law is kind of throwing the mystery vibes in
lot
there.
of Star Wars Easter eggs in this. Is that the case?
Well, there are familiar,
Yeah.
familiar homages. There are familiar people, familiar faces, and little tweaks here and there that people I think will recognize.
Okay, and this is set where in the universe?
Which planet or what time?
At what time? So it's 5 years after.
It's after. Hang on a minute, I've got to get this right. I don't know. It's set after the successful downfall of the Empire.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But before the rise of the new order. Is that right?
Well done. That was exactly it.
In other words,
Clearly, I didn't
it's
read my
literally
brief.
it's really during
In
the
the same world as the
during the
Mandalorian,
Mandalorian.
though. It's like in
Yes,
the same time
period.
in the times.
Yeah, it's actually got an official name. It's like the 30-year gap. I think that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So hover bikes?
There are hover bikes.
There are hover bikes.
Those are pretty cool. I like the
Wow,
design.
this seems very Amblin. I'm getting ET vibes thinking about it.
That's right. That's it.
Is it like an homage in a sense?
Many ways.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful backlit moments, very, very Spielbergian.
Mm.
Wow. Backlighting is always good. I'm sure for an
I
actor
do
too,
love
you
me a good
appreciate
Just got to
that.
make sure your hair's flat.
That's true. Get all the flyaways down. Is it true that you couldn't stop smiling on set?
Who said? Is that what someone else has said? That's really funny. Jude was just smiling at me. Well, it's a very joyous environment. First of all, it's a creative environment, which is a happy environment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And people were, the children brought such energy and
Nice.
wide-eyed wonderment to everything we did, even scenes of like real drama. And the one thing, weirdly, it wasn't like I overlooked it. It was like I hadn't fully considered the interaction and the acting opposite all these other species and robots and droids, what have you. So, the way they bring them to life on camera is so magical and so phenomenal. You end up doing scenes with these incredible creatures. and there's something just, that you stop at one moment and think, this is, am I really doing this? This is extraordinary. I'm in a scene with 8 characters and none of them are human.
That is so.
I find that really fun, man. Like, I guess as an actor, that's got to be pretty neat to be working in the world of Star Wars like that. First off, let me just say, talk about the child actors in here. I definitely had my issues with the twins from the Acolyte at times. I didn't necessarily think that they were kind of like the strongest actors, if you will, but they're kids, right? They'll grow into their craft and certainly hone it as times goes on. I don't know what the age difference is between those kids and the ones that we're about to get here in Skeleton Crew. But just from brief appearances and just this very small official trailer, it looks like they're pretty good at what they do. I don't know what the casting was certainly like. We'll have to see when the actual series winds up dropping, but there does seem an element of maybe surprises from Jude Law at the not only just the excitement and the exuberance, but maybe some of the professionalism or like how good some of these kids certainly are. I did read some interviews where I think it was John Watts and Christopher Ford talked about the idea of like how Jude Law was pretty much like their acting coach too, and kind of like their mentor on set, how they really just kind of gravitated towards him. And so, there is a level of that chemistry on screen with Jod and the rest of these kids that I kind of want to see how it works and just how good these child actors are, especially when you put them across the room from somebody as talented as Jude Law. But to hear that everybody just had this level of excitement, like that's got to really have you put your best foot forward in the idea of wanting to come to work every day and kind of enjoying what it is that you're certainly doing. You know what I mean? And so to be in that world like Jude Law is, and look, regardless of how you feel about the Star Wars television series or the movies, one thing you can never take away from this is them is the expertise behind the camera in the sense of the costume designers, the creature and alien designers, and all the makeup that certainly goes into it. And so to be literally surrounded by a bunch of aliens and having the act opposite of them, I mean, as an actor, I got to think that that's sort of like your dream, right? To create these fantasy worlds in your mind and pretend to be something that you're not, and to truly be engulfed in it. And when you've got great animatronics and people using these remote controls to move these characters around and make them kind of come to life opposite of you, I'm sure it probably is a huge wonder, and like you said, something very magical. So I dig hearing things like that.
So many shades of awesome. My last question to you, let's talk about the directors.
Yes.
There's a lot of guest directors. The Daniels.
Oh yeah. So you know about how many do you know? You know all of them.
David Lowery.
That's right.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
That's
Lee
right.
Isaac Chung.
Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Watts.
I wonder how many episodes John
How
is.
is that even possible that this
I
is
know.
happening? Give me a little. First of all, like the Daniels.
Okay, wait a minute. So in order, John. First of all, John was leader of the pack because it was his show, generous, fun, and
I wonder how many episodes John
really
did.
kind of challenging with like creating a real sense of risk and jeopardy for the kids, so that the kids really
Ooh,
knew that this was
nice.
serious stuff. David Lowery is in many ways like Peter Pan himself. I mean, I worked with him on Peter Pan and Wendy, and he brings this beautiful kind of energy of
Okay.
magic. The Daniels are funny, anarchic, kind of left of field, but their episode is really moving. Really moving. Quite surprised me. Bryce is just like a huge embrace, collaborative. Lee Isaac, he surprised me the most, actually. I think he had me laughing the most, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. Jake Shire, I think actually he's possibly one of the best episodes. Really brilliant. He's just made the Thunderbolts.
Okay.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
And you are a delight.
Damn.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, my pleasure.
I cannot wait to
Finally,
see
I'll see you at the holiday reunion.
Are we going to do a sequel?
I don't know. Let's ask
You can run off
Nancy.
with the girl that was on
Yes.
the plane.
Do it. Let's do it.
I was wondering where I came in on that conversation. Like, how did this interview start of them just randomly talking about another movie? Um, Well, first off, I know like two of those directors that he was referring to in regards to Bryce Dallas Howard and John Watts. So the fact that he brings up these other directors, I'm thinking to myself now, like, man, I might have to go back and see if I've seen any of their work before to see what he's referring to. But clearly, somebody he thinks has one of the best episodes that they've directed. Somebody who also feels like the Daniels have brought maybe the more emotional sort of episode out of everything. John Watts clearly sort of setting the stakes for the show and stuff. But clearly, John Watts, regardless of how many episodes he decides to direct, he is clearly manning this ship. And so I'm really excited, man. I love hearing everything that Jude Law certainly had to say. Granted, it not as many new details as I personally would have personally have liked to, but just to kind of hear his perspective on the different directors working opposite the kids, along with all these other aliens and things like that. I'm on board, man. I again, the trailer really floored me. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description box for you guys if you want to go ahead and check it out. But look, let me know what you guys thought. What stood out to you the most out of this particular Jude Law Skeleton Crew interview? What else do you guys want to go ahead and talk about in regards to the upcoming Skeleton Crew show? Let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below, guys. But other than that, that will do it for me here. I'll certainly see you guys Sunday for our episode of APlus Hero Report. And until then, do me a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.